Hello, my dear friends. I hope you are having a good day. Today, I've prepared 3 new stories for you. The first one is just crazy. Can you imagine having a daughter who helps your wife cheat on you? Buckle up and enjoy the story. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Enjoy. My wife, 40-year-old female, and I, 40-year-old male, have been married for 20 years. We have 2 teenagers, a 20-year-old female and a 15-year-old male. We met when we were 11, got married when she found out she was pregnant, and have been that success story of high school sweethearts that live the American dream. We even have a golden retriever. She became a stay-at-home mom after the birth of our son, and life chugged along pleasantly. I thought everything was fine. We weren't a dead bedroom and didn't fight much. I did work a lot, but it never strained our relationship. I always came home to a happy wife that was delighted to see me. There was one thing, however, that she did a lot. Constantly, I'd wake up on weekends and she wouldn't be there. Just a lovely note on our whiteboard, she ran to the grocery store or went to meet a friend, whatever. She's an early riser though, and I found nothing odd about that. Other times, I'd come home from work for my daughter to inform me she had gone out volunteering at my son's school, or she was at her yoga class, or something like that. My daughter always confirmed whatever my wife's story was, and always seemed to know where she went. My son was more in the dark, but they're not as close, so I figured that's why. Then comes about 3 weeks ago, before I had to start working from home because of Corona. My co-workers and I went out on lunch break to a diner nearby. On the way, I saw my wife's car parked at the edge of a lot, slowed down and stopped to see her kissing a man we'll call Kyle, a close friend of hers. The kicker? She told me he was gay. I told my co-workers to go ahead, turned back, and broke down in my office. I got home later that day. My daughter still lives with us and usually comes home after my son but before me. She informed me that my wife had gone out to visit Edith, a friend of her mother's. Wife came home a little after. While she was in the shower, I took her phone and began scouring through it. Messages with Kyle were innocent enough. I'm assuming she deleted the more suggestive ones. I scrolled further and tapped on the ones with our daughter and began scrolling up. She apparently hadn't deleted these ones. And there was an exchange a couple weeks ago about my wife telling her to tell me she's going to volunteer at the animal shelter. Kyle had called her over. My daughter sent her a winky face and told her to enjoy herself. These went far back. I think she sporadically deleted a few conversations, but the ones that remain have a pretty clear message. My daughter has been actively helping her cheat on me and continually reassures her that it's the right thing to do and that Kyle's great, and more and more and more. I confronted my wife Saturday evening when my son was at my mother-in-law's. Q Waterworks. I told her to just leave, and wailing, she packed an overnight bag and went to leave the house, running into my daughter who was coming home. She immediately took my wife's side and yelled at me for even thinking I could boot my wife out of her own home. She started screaming at me and told me to get out of the house. I ended up leaving and swung by my mother-in-law's to pick up my son to take him out to dinner. I gently explained how things might be changing, and he took it like a champ. Fast forward to now. Divorce proceedings have started. I'm staying at my parents', and after finding out what happened, my son refuses to stay with his mom or talk to his sister and is staying with me. My daughter continues to blame me for this whole thing, and both her and my wife are twisting the story to family members who have begun to inquire. My son is enraged at them, and when my wife came by today to try and convince him to come home, he slammed the door in her face and called her a home-wrecking S. My wife called me in tears and accused me of parental alienation. I need you guys to help me out. First of all, how do I even begin to repair my relationship with my daughter? Second, how do I make sure my son doesn't hate his mom and sister for this? I really don't think that'd be healthy at all. In my opinion, guys, that's a double betrayal. Feel so sorry for OP. He must be devastated. That's just horrible. I know it's hard when it's your kid, but OP should go no contact with his daughter or even disown her. She needs to understand what she did is wrong, very wrong. As far as I can see, she doesn't get it at the moment. To be honest, I think she doesn't respect her father at all. But I think that's OP's fault. There must be a reason why she allows herself not to respect her father. Don't you think so, guys? I think OP shouldn't worry about his son's relationship with his mom and sister. Looks like he is a sensible boy, and OP should be happy that he is on his side. I don't think OP's son should be around these morally bankrupt people. OP should let him hate his mom and sister and not try to force a relationship there. Update. Some guys are telling me to grow a spine. I really do need to. I contacted my good buddy, who's a divorce attorney, and I'm so proud of how my son is acting like an adult. My wife and daughter have both showed up multiple times at the door to try and talk to my son. He and my daughter are really close and spend a lot of time together. Now he won't even talk to her. She's crying, wife's crying, and son tells them to leave him alone or he'll call the police. They finally leave, and after reading some comments, I'm not going to force him to have a relationship with them. My wife's betrayal I can somewhat deal with, but the fact my daughter was helping is too much. On another note, I was paying for her college, and I cut her off. My wife, being a stay-at-home mom, does not have the funds to cover for her, and I make too much money for her to qualify for financial support. It was almost funny after I texted her I was cutting her off, how quickly she responded and begged me to reconsider and immediately began apologizing. Whatever. Although really, my life sucks right now. Basically, last weekend my family, mom, dad, grandpa, aunts, uncles, cousins, met up with my brother, his wife, and her family. First time we met them, and only my brother's mother-in-law and father-in-law. It was okay, until my brother started whining because his wife only wanted her own mom on the delivery room. My mom joined being the passive-aggressive person she is. She and my dad, and everyone else, tried to change the subject and talk about something else, which didn't work. I got fed up and started defending my sister-in-law, who looked very uncomfortable. And I will admit, I got kinda angry. I mean, I get that it's an important moment to my brother, and he is also feeling nervous and scared. But he's not the one pushing a whole baby through his nether parts, possibly pooping in public, having a bunch of doctors watch him, in pain, and then having to wear adult diapers and whatnot. I'd say that is the person who chooses who goes into the room. Everyone got kinda silent, and my mom said something to the effect that she's a woman and there isn't anything she hasn't seen, which really isn't the point. She started saying I didn't know what I was talking about, and I would be glad I had her on my side when I had kids. I will admit fault for what happened after, but I was really angry. I basically said that if I had a baby, I'd prefer my dad to be with me on the delivery room. I'm closer to him and whatnot. She 100% freaked out, calling me ungrateful and disgusting. My dad got pretty angry and tried to tell her to chill, but she got even angrier and basically said I couldn't have my father there because he's a man. So that was terrible. My dad was furious and asked her to clarify. I'm not going in detail, but she basically said that my dad shouldn't be allowed to see my lady parts and that was disgusting, and that I was trying to seduce him. Excuse me while I throw up, Jesus Christ on a pole. I don't even want to think about this. My dad didn't even say anything, just got up and told me to get in the car. My brother started fighting with my mom while she cried. We have spent the week at my grandma's house and my dad is very hurt. My mom has sent me some messages asking me to talk with my dad, but every time I tried to open up about this, he says this is not about me, and I shouldn't have to get in between them. I sent a message to my sister-in-law apologizing, but she said it wasn't my fault. I talked with my brother, and I did give him some verbal lashing about the whole delivery room thing, and I believe he's rethinking. And he said that mom is very sad and cries non-stop, but he agrees with my dad, and I shouldn't get involved. He is also pretty hurt because he's going to have a daughter, and my mom implied that every man is like that. I'm very worried about my parents' marriage, and while I know she was out of line, I do have some fault when I started being sassy and aggressive. What should I do? Edit. Apparently, my mom went to get me after school yesterday. One of my friends saw her and was asked about me. She didn't really warn me or text me before or after. Should I tell my dad? I kinda wonder whether she was trying to talk with my father. I think that woman is crazy. First of all, in my opinion, it is not normal for a mother-in-law to be in the delivery room. I think OP was right to have her sister-in-law's back, but probably it was unnecessary to bring her father into the debate. And second of all, accusing her daughter to seduce the father? That's just disgusting. Update. It has been about a month or so since I posted, and I figured I would update you guys. Unfortunately, it is not a good one. My father asked for a divorce about a week after the post. It caught me off guard and I was shocked. They talked before this, but my dad came home even more upset than the day at the restaurant. He asked me whether I'd like to live with him or my mom, and I chose him. I love my mom to death, but on the day-to-day basis, I get along better with my father. I called her to explain, but as soon as I said, she disconnected the call, so yeah. I wrote her a letter and tried to give it to her when we went home to get our things, but she ripped it up, which was very painful to see. My dad and brother started screaming at her, and I left with my sister-in-law. I went with my dad to have a consultation with my psychologist, and they tried to help me to see why she is doing this. From what I can understand, there might be some reasons. I went through a pretty tough period. I got depressed, anxious, and had some problems with eating disorders, but I've been on medication and therapy, which has helped out a lot. After this, I felt much happier and had energy to work on myself. I started working out with my brother. My sister-in-law teaches me how to use makeup, and my grandma gave me a bunch of gift cards to buy some new clothes. I've also started trying new hobbies, and my days are really busy. We think that my mom started feeling left out and jealous of me, especially since my brother, Dad, started paying more attention to me, and I know they are actively making an effort to compliment me and pay attention to what I say or am interested in. She thought that with the new baby, she would be the grandma, but she and my sister-in-law don't get along that well. They don't fight, but they don't have much in common either, and I guess she was feeling pretty sad. After the post, I started wondering whether my mom had been through some sort of abuse, which could explain her reaction to my dad seeing me naked and whatnot. It wasn't that. My dad said he was a victim of abuse and that it came from someone he trusted and was family. So my mom saying this made him enraged. He tried talking to her after, but apparently she just kept implying it, and he can't be married to someone who would say this. There's more about it, but that's basically what went wrong. I'm honestly heartbroken. I can't wrap my head around what my mom did, and I still feel guilty about this whole story. Even more now, since it was because of me that she felt left out. I don't know what our relationship will be like. My dad has full custody, but said I could visit her anytime I want, but we haven't talked yet, and she hasn't tried to contact me. My brother still talks to her, but not as much. He says she is okay. He said she asks about me, but I think he's lying. We are living with my grandma, but will move to a new house next month. It seems like a cool place and is close to my brother's work. On a happier note, sister-in-law is almost ready for the baby, and the name I suggested was The Chosen One. I can't wait to meet my niece. OP shouldn't be blaming herself for her parents' divorce. None of this is her fault. Her mom is an adult. She's acting like a child, jealous of attention OP is getting, implying terrible things about her husband. Basically, treating people she should love with self-centered aggressiveness. That's not mature adult behavior, and it's not OP's fault she is this way. She didn't care what sister-in-law wanted with the birth, or try to understand. She didn't care about how her husband felt when she insulted him. By ripping up OP's letter, she just wanted to hurt OP because it's all about her, and she never apologized. My parents adopted me from China through an agency when I was a baby. They, 70-year-old female, 69-year-old male, are Caucasian. This was before the recent Hollywood trend of rich people adopting third-world children. My parents didn't adopt me because they couldn't have biological children, or even because they desperately wanted a male child. They have 3 other biological children, 45, 47, 48, all female. My sisters all have their own children that are either in their late teens or already full-grown. I know my parents adopted me mostly because they wanted attention and the 1980s version of likes and praise from people for being good enough to rescue a doomed child from the clutches of poverty. I know this because when I was little, I would get paraded around a lot by my parents, who made sure everyone saw me, and I was this great conversation piece for them to talk about the virtues of adoption and the troubles in communist China and whatnot. My sisters used to treat me like a doll, too, and condescend to me. As I grew up into my teens, I could tell my whole family was over it, and the novelty was gone, and I recognized that they resented having me around. I grew overweight as a teen, and my parents and sisters teased and criticized me relentlessly. I got a scholarship for computer science and moved out at the very first opportunity. I am very low contact with my family, and I consider them to all be gluttons for attention. I lost weight after high school and am now quite fit. I have a girlfriend of 3 years, 32, who, like me, works in IT. I make a very good salary, and as an unmarried man, I bought my 7-bedroom house outright at age 29. Aside from my parents, who I don't know if they're still paying a mortgage, I am the only child of our family to own their own home. And as such, my nephews and other cousins related through my adoption are asking me to stay at my house, usually for free, though some make token offers to pay rent. Also, since my house is larger than my parents' house, they think it's only fair that I host holiday parties at my house. When I try to beg off, they remind me how they adopted me and raised me, and how I need to repay this by being nice to them now. When I was 26, I calculated all the money it must have cost to take care of me from age 1 month to age 18 and sent a check to my mom. She cashed it. I think whatever I owe, I paid. However, she sends me these long emails telling me about how my sister's children need a break in life, how it's up to me to be there for my family, how they were there for me. I don't want anyone living in my house. My house is my house. It's filled with my crap that I don't want anyone to touch. I said this in effect to my mom, and she says I am selfish and that I wouldn't even be in IT today if it weren't for their sacrifices. Personally, I think they only adopted me to feed their egos and vanity, but since my mom cashed my check, I think that says all I need to know. I was hoping when I sent it years ago that she would be insulted by it and tell me she didn't want my money. My girlfriend says that I shouldn't let my beef with my sisters and parents sour my relationship with my nieces and nephews. I agree, and that's fine, but I think in that case I can give them advice on how to get loans or apply for scholarships or find roommates. I don't think I need to be giving them money or letting them stay in my house. I also don't want people partying in my house. It's my house, and I worked for it. And if I want to play golf in it or throw a tennis ball against the wall from across the hallway, then that's on me. My mom says that I am ungrateful. What do you think? I think OP owes them nothing. He sent them a check, and they cashed it. Also, I don't think a child owes a parent money for raising them. Children do not choose their families. If you think that a child owes you something, then you shouldn't have children at all. I think only narcissistic and selfish parents think that way. OP should go no contact with them.